Okay.
You
Trust
can't
me.
see the record button when your screen is being shared, and I always screw it up. All right. Welcome to Intuitive Queen. This class is for you if you're like me and have been an anxious person or an overthinker. This class is for you if you struggle to hear your intuition or to take action from it, which used to be me as well. This class is for you if you say, I don't know a lot. Every woman that starts to work with me one-on-one says, I don't know a lot when I ask them questions, and that's just a sign that they're disconnected from their inner voice. And this class is for you if you're interested in doing things in a different way. So I think most people in here have met me before, but if not, I'm Lauren. So good to meet you. I'm a mindset coach, I'm an astrologer. And the reason I'm so passionate about mindset work, intuition, all this stuff is because I spent so long in therapy trying to get over my anxiety, to listen to myself. And although therapy was a really important step for me, it didn't help me to actually, uh, one, get over my anxiety or stop overthinking, and two, actually hear what my intuition was saying because my stories were so loud, my fear was so loud, and my anxiety was still so loud. So I'm super passionate about helping women to hear themselves. And I'm so passionate about this in this time of my life because last year, a lot of you also know this, I invested $20,000 in a business coach because she told me she was going to help me to 10x my business. What ended up happening is that my business went down by 90%. I'm an Aries. I need to fall on my face sometimes to learn a lesson. So I had a $20,000 lesson. And what happened was I was listening to this coach. I wasn't listening to myself. She would give me advice and I would say in my intuition, I was like, oh, this doesn't feel right. And yet I did what she said because I thought she was the expert. Yes, 90%. And it cost me not only my revenue, but it cost me $20,000. So please learn from my $20,000 mistake. You are your own guru, not me, not another coach. I know I'm a coach, but I really just want you guys to listen to yourselves, and that's what I'm super passionate about because we all have innate wisdom, and we just need to fine tune how to listen to it, hear it, and take action from it. More and more online, everyone is saying they're an expert. I don't know if you've been experiencing this, but everyone says that they are a guru, and I'm over it. I'm not a guru. I'm my own guru. You're your own guru. I am a person who has training experience and has done a lot of classes, but I don't know what's best for you as much as you do. And the coaches who are saying they do, well, I'll get off my soapbox. So how do we learn to listen to our intuition? We learn first to manage our mind. Our mind is where all of our noise is, all of our thoughts that are keeping us stuck in the same patterns and behaviors. We have to first, in order to hear our intuition, learn to manage our mind, calm down our mind, and know what thoughts are ours, what thoughts are not, and what's true, right? And then we can learn to listen to our intuition and we manage our nervous system in order to get those really clear intuitive hits that we can take action from. You can't listen to your intuition if you have a disrupted nervous system and if you have an overactive mind. And this is where it gets a little bit nuanced and sticky. So, like I said, I used to be so anxious. I think my sister's in the room with me. She can attest to this. I used to like go out to lunch and be so worried I would order the right thing. I couldn't order until everyone else ordered because I was so afraid of making the wrong decision. And I know it's just a lunch, but I was such an overthinker and I just always thought that the coaches knew better than me that I was working with, that people who were older than me knew better than me. But like I said, having this $20,000 lesson happen to me really showed me how powerful my intuition is when I take the time to listen to it. So last summer, a lot of you know, I listened to my intuition and ended up in Paris. And then my intuition took me back to Paris, where I spent 3 months in the spring or winter. We're in spring now. And now I'm working on going back to Paris. And I never could be on my way back to Paris if I wasn't listening to myself, because there are so many reasons, logical reasons, it doesn't make sense to live differently, but my intuition is guiding me, and that's what I wanna help you guys to do. So, why aren't more coaches talking about this? One, intuition is super nuanced. Uh, there is so much we're gonna go into today, and it's not an easy thing to teach. And two, coaches in the industry want you to pay them to get them to tell you what to do. And this is bad business for me, you know, if I teach you how to become your guru, like I'm taking money away from myself in the long term. But I got to be in integrity to me, and I know that, like, I don't know what's best for you. You know what's best for you. If you don't take away anything else from this whole hour, that's what I want you to remember. But more people would be teaching this if it was something that made sense financially, right? Okay, now we're getting into the meat. Here's some reasons why it's really hard to listen to our intuition. There's a million on here, so take this and digest it. And this isn't even all of them. I'll just call out a few, and if anything stands out to you, drop it in the comments. Habits is the big one. If you're always used to doing something in the same way, our body is conditioned to doing it, and we can override our intuition. Fear and anxiety can be super loud. Trauma is super huge. Thank you, Lauren. Trauma keeps us stuck for a really long time. It's important to differentiate what's trauma and what is fear and intuition or anxiety. Again, really, really nuanced. Something that I fall into or have in the past is wanting to get out of a difficult feeling. So I go ahead and take action, even though it's not an intuitive action. Yeah, I can't tell the difference between fear and anxiety and intuition. Yeah, I have some slides about that later on. It can be really hard to know that. And fear and anxiety, yeah, fear and anxiety are always louder. Fear and anxiety are always louder than intuition, and so those end up being the ones that we take action from. But there's a way we can train ourselves to get out of that place. So I could go on. There's a million examples, but it's much more practical to live in a way that other people expect us to live. And listening to our intuition, living intuitively is not what people are doing. And so this is breaking our conditioning and stepping into a totally new paradigm. So it's going to be a little bit interesting and different. Yeah, Louise says with no defined authority, it takes a lot of time and attention to learn to hear her intuition. That's talking about human design, which we're going to get into later. Yeah, Louise, it can be really nuanced. I already asked you this. Which of you struggled most with? So again, I see people struggling with habits. Like if you are always doing something one way and your intuition is telling you to do a different way, you've built up conditioning in your conscious and unconscious to keep you doing what you have always done, and it's hard to break the pattern. Anxiety and fear is probably the second biggest one, because those are so loud when we want to hear our intuition. And then shoulds. I always say don't should on yourself, but we all should ourselves all the time. And that's when we do things that our family wants us to do, society tells us to do, and we feel like we should do something, even if we're not actually like feeling like it's right for us. It's so common. I've done it. I'm sure we've all done it. Is done things we think we should do because it's what is the norm. I always get ahead of myself and say things multiple times, so just bear with me. But the good news is learning to listen to our intuition is a skill we can develop. And let's talk about it. What is intuition? And there's lots of pop psychology definitions of what it is, but scientifically, it's the ability to understand something immediately without the need for conscious reasoning. Like when we say we're letting our intuition guide us. And it's a thing that no one knows or considered likely, that one knows, not no one knows, or considered likely from a feeling rather than conscious reasoning. And so you guys know me, I'm woo-woo and I'm practical. So we're going to be looking at intuition through a practical lens and through a spiritual lens. The first half of this is more practical, and then you're going to get into the spiritual. And Devin said in the chat that she is really struggling with the shoulds. I feel you, my girl. It is hard to break free from that. All right. So our intuition is usually something that comes through our unconscious mind. If you've been in a master class with me before, you know that our unconscious is where all of our drivers live. It's an incredibly important part of our system, our being, and it contains all of our memories, experiences. It keeps your body alive. Your unconscious is the thing that breathes you. It keeps your heart beating. Freud described it as described the unconscious as the thoughts, feelings, and urges that are outside of our awareness. So oftentimes our intuition is just coming from our unconscious mind, coming from everything that we've learned that's outside of our consciousness. Carl Jung gave this quote: "Intuition is the perception via the unconscious that brings forth ideas, images, new possibilities, and ways out of blocked situations." I don't know about you, but I've definitely been unblocked by my unconscious. And shout out to Carl Jung. Little known fact, he is an astrologer, and that is awesome. So this is my favorite image. I use it in all my master classes. Your conscious mind is 5% of your perception on a daily basis, max 10. It's the tip of the iceberg. Your unconscious that's living within you. There's actually now there's stuff that talks about how part of your unconscious mind lives in your gut. Not only it goes throughout your whole body, but now there's science that backs up, what we feed our literal gut affects how much we can tap into our unconscious and tap into our intuition. But remember, your unconscious mind is running your show, and that's often where our intuition lives on a practical standpoint. There is this thing called dual process theory, which is how we kind of can talk about intuition. It's a theory, but I think we all can relate to this. It's when intuition operates alongside analytical thinking. And so you have system one, which is your intuition or your gut, and then system two, your analytical side. And in this theory, it basically suggests that both of these are running alongside each other. And it helps us to make those intuitive decisions quickly if we're paying attention. So that intuition, that system one, is more automatic, and then that would be more of the unconscious in the iceberg, and then the system two, our conscious mind, is going to come in and confirm that. But it's all nuanced, like I said. So sometimes our intuition might have a gut feeling, but we can get more information and it changes, and that's normal. I don't know about you, but some of the spiritual teachers I've worked with over the years have said, like, trust your gut, and I totally agree, you should trust your gut. But the second thing they're not saying is that your gut can change. I remember I years ago got a job offer and my gut was like, take the job. I was like, okay, I guess I'm going to take this job. The next day I got new information and my gut turned around all the way and was like, oh, don't take the job. So it's allowed to change. And I think that's something that some of us need to give ourselves permission to do. And hopefully this is all making sense so far. When I get into the brain stuff, I really nerd out. So when you have a strong reaction or that gut feeling, it can just be your unconscious. And something to keep in mind about the unconscious is that the unconscious is always trying to keep you alive. It's not ever trying to keep you happy, joyful, free, vibrant. It's literally there to keep you breathing, your heart beating, and to keep you alive. So sometimes what feels like our intuition is our nervous system keeping us alive, keeping us safe, keeping us in the same state. And it can actually hinder us hearing our intuition, and it can create kind of a trauma response. I'm not a trauma teacher, but I'm sure we've all experienced it. So, for example, my mind, my unconscious, my programming might tell me that moving to Paris is a fucking dumb thing to do, but my intuition is leading me that way. And I had to go through all of my kind of uh, trauma responses to unpack that to change. So another example of this is attachment styles. If you've ever heard of this, I think most of us probably have in this room. Um, and so in attachment styles, you in a romantic relationship or in our relationships in general, we either are secure, anxious, or avoidant, and there's a spectrum within that. But sometimes if we are anxious and we meet a secure person, our gut might tell us that person is not for us because they're boring or safe. And so that's why we have to really fine tune our intuition, because our gut might be that they're a no, when really that's just a trauma response and it's our unconscious trying to keep us geared towards what is familiar and not really what is best for us. So this shit is nuanced as hell. Um, I don't know about you, but I am single and I've been dating a lot for years. And I remember when I met somebody who ended up becoming my partner, um, I really felt I was really in that space of, is this anxiety or is that fear? But this person and I both were anxious attached. And so my trauma said intuitively, this person is for me, because I was very much in a trauma response. And I ended up dating this person for several years, and it just was not the right match. I will not get into that, but it was a really good example of, like, I felt like this was the right decision, but really it was a trauma response. It was not my actual intuition, because if I really think back to the beginning stages of that relationship, I knew it was a bad idea. I knew from day one, but I had that pull because of my trauma response. Again, not a trauma teacher, but I think a lot of us can relate. So I had to really refine my intuition, and I'm sure I will mess up, and I have continued to mess up because refining is a ongoing process. The more that we listen, the easier it becomes to hear it. But there's so much nuance. And this is why nobody can be an expert on you except for you, because you have your lived experience and you are the only one who's been with you every day of your life, right? This is a fun story, though, about how exceptional intuition is. When we learn to harness this tool, Alexander Fleming, who was the discoverer of penicillin, discovered penicillin because he followed an intuitive pull. So he saw this bacteria mold that was in a petri dish, and instead of like being like, That's mold," he followed an intuition and discovered this thing that saved the lives of, I would imagine, millions. I'm not a doctor, but if we really can listen to ourselves, it can have really, really major ramifications. Um, Einstein, huge fan of intuition. I love that he called intuition the sacred gift and the only real valuable thing. And he credited his intuition to helping him discover the theory of relativity. And like, why are we outsourcing our intuition? You know, there's so much power in it. I just wanted to provide some examples of real life situations where intuition comes in handy. Okay, am I talking too fast? I'm such an I want to respect everybody's time. Thank you, Devin. So, what other intuition teachers aren't telling you, like I already said, intuition is nuanced. Intuition is influenced by your trauma. Intuition feels different to different people, and sometimes you need to question your gut because it could be that trauma response. This is complex but worthwhile work. So, here's another example. I love to shop. I'm a big clothes person, and my gut will often tell me that I need to get that item when I like think when I'm at a store and I see something that I really like. My gut might be like, "Yes, get it." But really, that is a dopamine cycle that I'm in where I think I'll get a reward by buying the thing. It's not actually intuition. It's a pull that's programmed by chemicals in my brain. Really, what I'm looking for often when I'm trying to buy something in a store is a feeling. And so I have to go deeper and ask myself, what do I really want? What do I think this thing is going to get me? Uh, and so if we question our gut instinct in that moment, we can save money. But I just want to provide you with examples of when to question that feeling that feels like a gut instinct, because there's so many times where it feels like, oh, my intuition is saying I need this thing. It's like, actually question it. All of this said, even though it's something we should question, it's still something that's extremely powerful. Steve Jobs said it's a powerful thing, more powerful than intellect. I would agree. He, in creating things like the iPod, iPhone, iPad, he felt it was important to go with his intuition, and he used intuition in congruence with data to make these products, which I'm sure we have at least one of them in our home. And so when we rely on our intuition, we can get so much farther. All right. So that was a little bit about the practical side, and there's a little bit more sprinkled in the end. But now we're going to get to the spiritual side, because I think both are equally important. I think intuition is practical and spiritual, and sometimes we know things and there is no rational explanation for why we know that thing. So I like, for the sake of this presentation, I want us to live in the world of both and instead of either or, which is hard for our brains to get into, and why mindset work helps so much, because we're really drawn to things being black and white. We want things to be black and white as humans, because it's, again, something that keeps us alive. But for the sake of the rest of this, just play in the space of both things can be true. Intuition is spiritual and it's also super practical. So I think, and you don't have to believe me, but this is how I view things. I think our higher self talks to us, our spirit guides, our spirit team. It can also speak to us through our intuition. I also think that when we learn to listen to our intuition, it's a spiritual practice. Um, Learning to love myself has been the most profound thing I've ever done in my life. Um, I'm in a place now where I like start crying because of how much I love myself. And it took me a really long time to get there. And the most important thing I did to get there was learning to trust myself by listening to my intuition. And it's, oh, thank you, Lord. Um, and you can get there too if you're not already. So, if you had a second to go and find out your human design authority, we're looking at what your authority is in human design. So if you go to www.myhumandesign.com and input your birth info, you can find out your authority, and it's going to be different for everyone. And we're going to go through all the authorities. Drop your authority in the chat if you know it. A little bit about human design. I've become more and more nerdy about it because it's just so fun. But human design was something that was channeled by a man named Ra. He changed his name to Ra. His given name was Alan, which I think is so funny. But human design mixes, yay, kids here. Human design mixes astrology, the I Ching, the chakra system, and esoteric wisdom to give us kind of a clear path to know what our intuition sounds like. And that's the thing that I found to be most valuable out of all of human design, because it's extremely complex. But if we know our authority, it can be a way that we can really hear or start to practice listening to our intuition even more. So your authority is the way that your intuition speaks to you. Your intuition can speak to you in many different ways. This is the primary way, according to human design. And so I found it for me and most of my clients, it's been very true. But remember, there's nuance. Your intuition can also speak to you in other ways, but this is the primary way. So if we learn to listen to it and take action from it, it's a really good guiding post, especially for getting used to. Oh, bye, Devin. Thank you for coming. If we're getting used to listening to ourselves. So, again, there's nuance here. Like I said, your intuition can speak to you in multiple ways, but this is just the primary way according to your human design. So, if you're an emotional authority, do we have any emotional authorities in the room? They are oftentimes
Yes.
projectors, Robin. Okay, cool. Um, so the key for an emotional authority is, and Lauren is too, is to go slow to go fast. You're really supposed to follow your feeling about something, and it should be the feeling that you feel after the initial response has faded. So it's like if you experience something, you have an initial feeling to it, and that feeling is usually really big. And so we don't, if we're an emotional authority, we don't want to make a decision when we're heightened. Go slow to go fast. And so you have to wait for clarity in your emotions, which takes time, which is frustrating for people. But when we make decisions as an emotional authority, when we're heightened, either high or low, it can be when you're feeling really good as well. It might not actually be that deeper knowing. So, frustratingly, for an emotional authority, it's really important for you to slow down and take your time in your decisions, and then you'll be able to hear yourself better. Lauren, do you have a question?
Yeah, I do actually. So I'm wondering if I did this wrong. So I did take the human design test on some woman who does coaching her website, and it told me I was a generator manifester or I can't remember what it is, but is
That's
this the
your
same?
primary type, but so under there should be an
Oh,
authority also. So there's multiple, yeah, it's you are a manifesting generator.
manifesting generator.
That makes
Okay.
sense too for you with all your fire.
Woo!
But there should be an authority there with you, that's gonna help you.
What was the website you just said? Because I'll just like do it again.
myhumandesign.com,
My
which is the one that I
human.
think is the easiest to use.
Okay, I'll do it again. Thank you.
Of course. Okay, so emotional authority is go slow to go fast. Sacral authority, which is super common for generators and manifesting generators. Um, this is my style, so it's very special to me. But we have that gut feeling in our body. For me, this is something that really lives in the body. And for me, it's also something that feels like a physical pull. Like my gut pulls me towards something that's for me. And I often like literally move away from something that is not for me. And I really have to listen to my body if I'm moving forward or backwards. Uh, even that's just my type that I've learned to listen. And it can feel like an uh-huh, it can feel like a hell no. But for sacral, it's really something. Kim's a sacral, and so is Eva. Eva, I forgot. And so we really gotta go towards what feels good. If you're a generator, especially, you're supposed to go towards what lights you up. And so if you have that sacral authority, it's like really listening to what is lighting me up and what I'm getting pulled towards. If you don't know yet, ask yourself yes or no questions. For sacral authority, this is a super cheat code. If you don't have the answer, ask yourself yes or no questions until you can discern what you're actually feeling. So if it's like, should I do this thing? What should I have for dinner? Instead of saying, should I have Mexican or Italian for dinner, ask yourself, should I have Mexican for dinner? No. Should I have Italian for dinner? Yes. So framing questions to yourself in a yes or no way can really help you to hear your instinct if you're a sacral authority. Splenic authority is one of the most quiet authorities, and it's the most what we would describe intuition in pop culture way. Splenic is really that really quiet whisper, and it's very much in the moment, and so it can be hard to hear. Do we have any splenic authorities in here? Um, it it really is hard to hear because we're living in an age where there's so much noise. So splenic authorities really need to get super grounded into their own bodies, into their own spaces, so they can hear that, because once it goes in, if they don't take action from it, it's gonna leave. And so it's in the moment and it's very soft. And so this requires a lot of practice to lean into. But it's I have some splenic clients, and the more they listen to it, the easier and louder it gets. Okay, ego authority is moving towards decisions that make you feel empowered. Your intuition should lead you towards your self-worth. And so I would say all of our decisions for any type should help us to feel in our power and self-worth. But this is specifically if you have this ego authority, it's the primary way, right? So it should feel like a deep yes. It is makes you feel confident, it makes you feel self-assured. Does it make you feel more confident about yourself? If so, it is the right choice. It is like looking at something and saying, "Yes, I want that," and then going for it. And the kind of tough part with this authority is that this type judges themselves a lot, and they can get really stuck in the shoulds. And so they don't go for what they want because they don't think they should. And so they got to step out of that self-judgment and do the thing, even if it is difficult. G center, these other ones are like much less common. But G center needs to talk about their stuff to really gain the clarity of what their intuition says. And I think, again, this is nuanced. Sometimes other types can talk things out to hear themselves more clearly. But for the G center, hearing themselves talk is how they actually can know if their intuition is leading them one way or the other. So talk it out if you're a G center authority. Lunar authority is only for reflectors. I don't think we have any reflectors in here, but yeah, it's 1% of the population. And so they need to wait a lunar cycle, allegedly. I've never met a reflector who actually does that because it's not the way the world works. But it's their intuition is really hard to hear. They chose this lifetime a really interesting life path. And so for them, they really gotta spend time listening to their intuition, and it says 28 days. Again, I've never met a reflector who does that, but I bet they're super powerful if they do. I know we have at least one mental authority in here. The mental authority type is when you have logic and intuition both. It's just kind of like the dual process theory that we talked about at the beginning, where they really need to listen to themselves and use that intuitive pull alongside their logic. And it can really be a mix of the thinking and intuitive mind. I know it can be a struggle when you have this type because you can see both paths really clearly, the logical path and the intuitive path, and it's trying to find the place where those overlap and taking that path. But it can be really hard to discern. Um, but yeah, they don't want to overrule the logic and facts. They want to keep that like 50, like logic and facts and that deep inner knowing. And yeah, I know that the person in here says it's really tough who has this authority. So it's like the more we listen to it, the easier it gets to hear. Okay, any questions about your intuition and your human design? Drop them in the chat if you got them later. So I like to use this frame because it helped me to get really clear on what my intuition sounds like initially. And then that from taking action from my sacral authority, I was able to really discern the other ways in which my intuition spoke to me. And so take it or leave it, play with it. It can be really fun to let yourself experiment in playing with this decision making framework just for a short amount of time and see where it leads you. So, how do we listen to this intuition? I've talked about this a little bit already, but we really have to learn to rewire our brain to filter out the anxious and fearful, unhelpful thoughts. Because for all of these types, our wiring, our conditioning, our unconscious is wired to keep up with society. It's wired to capitalism and to be in our family and to keep us alive. And so in order to really hear what is right for you, you got to filter out those thoughts that are unhelpful. I do mindset work. People do hypnosis, tapping. There's a million ways, modalities we can reframe. But step one is really working with our mind to get clear on, is this thought even helpful? Or is this thought conditioned? Is this thought bullshit? And again, we don't want to get to a place where there's no fearful thoughts. I have some clients who are like, oh no, I'm doing this wrong because I have a fearful or anxious thought. And that's just a lie perpetuated by the coaching industry, honestly, to say that you should just never have fear or never have anxiety. That's not normal. If you have no fear or anxiety, you have probably something wrong with you mentally. So we're not trying to get to a place where we have no fearful or anxious thoughts. We just don't want them running the show. Remember, those things are keeping you alive. And so if you were just like no fear, no anxiety all the time, you'd be jumping out of planes and free soloing, and like it wouldn't be safe for you. So some fear and anxiety is normal. We just don't want it to be driving. Secondly, we got to learn to listen to the intuition of our body. For splenic authority, it's that whisper inside our body. For sacral authority, it's that gut pull. And we got to learn what is trauma, what is programming, and what is intuition. And the best way I've learned to do this is to take action. Because again, I repeat myself a lot because I want it to land. The more we use our intuition muscle, the more we hear it. So the invitation for this week, if you dare to take it on, is to let yourself play in this nuance and listen to it and take action from it. Spend a week listening to your intuition based on your human design and see where it goes. Like, what does my gut say? And then doing it. What does my splenic authority say? And doing it. Not second guessing. From this experiment, you're going to really fine tune what is true and what is not true. And it's not a perfect science. It is nuanced, but just allow yourself to just experiment and see what happens. So make your decisions for the next week from your gut and see what happens. All right. So let's talk about intuition versus fear. We got a lot of people who said that they struggle with this. I know I did a lot. I would say it's probably the greatest thing that keeps us from following our intuition is fear. Fear of what other people think, fear of making the wrong decision, fear in general. If I do this and I don't do this, what will happen? And that's just noise. And that's makes it really hard to hear our intuition when we're in the chatter. Again, our unconscious is wired to keep us safe and alive. And so the fear voice is always going to be really loud. If it wasn't, you'd be jumping out of airplanes. Free soloing is not a verb, but you know what I mean. Just like climbing rocks without a cord, whatever. I'm not a rock climber. So fear is there to keep you alive, but it's not always telling you the truth because it's really oftentimes keeping us in the same lane. It's oftentimes keeping us small, keeping us safe, keeping us status quo. Again, because safety is what it wants. And so status quo means I get to stay alive. So our intuition is usually a lot softer than fear. So depending on your authority, it can come in and leave in a blink. Pretty much every authority other than emotional, it's a quick thing that comes in and leaves. Your gut will come in and leave if you're a sacral. If you're a splenic authority, it's going to be that whisper. And with emotional, you're going to like come and land into a feeling after you take the time to process it. But usually in intuition, it's much more calm. It feels clear. It's not heightened in either direction. It's not super happy. It's not super sad. It's just more peaceful and more calm. It's even if it's uncertain, the voice of intuition is usually more calm. It usually guides us towards positive outcomes. that lead us towards our authenticity. It might lead us towards something that scares us. That doesn't mean it's not our intuition. If it's helping us to grow, it's usually, you know, helping us to grow. I think it's a good differentiator here, because sometimes we'll like make a quote gut decision, but it's really just getting us out of an uncomfortable place. Your intuition is not trying to keep you comfortable, it's trying to keep you on the path to becoming that greater you. And so it's going to lead you towards your growth. It's going to encourage exploration. It's going to encourage you to trust yourself. Again, my intuition feels like a physical pull. Like I'm physically pulled to Europe, but it can pull me towards a conversation. It can pull me towards taking an action. For other people, it's really just they hear a voice in their inner monologue. Um, they some people see visions. They see an image in their head, and that's the thing they need to move towards. It can be different for everyone, but it is usually more calm. And fear is more loud. Fear is that thing that's like, ha, 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 like alarm bell. And this is often something that's influenced by our experiences, our traumas, our conditioning. It can make us feel uncomfortable. Um, it can make us feel more anxious. And it can be a very protective type of thing. And so it can limit us because it keeps us from moving forward. Fear is often going to keep us in the same lane and keep us playing the same game. But in my body, it feels very much like fear is like the thing I can't let go of, the pit in my stomach that it's usually if I really slow down and listen to my deepest wisdom, the fear is never the thing, but it's so loud, it can be very convincing that it's the thing, but you gotta slow down to hear it. So again, intuition is leading us towards growth, which can be scary, but there's a big difference between growth that is expansive and fear that's like keeping us in that warning bell, like honk, 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 loud stage. So an exercise I love to do with this is really listening to our body. And if we're unsure about what to do, if you're unsure if this is fear or intuition, ask yourself, does saying yes to this thing make me feel expansive or contracted? And this is important to really listen to your physical body. So it, across the board for probably every authority, it would be helpful to take a moment, take some deep breaths, maybe sigh it out, release some of the tension in your body if you're feeling any, and then ask yourself, does this make me feel expansive or contracted? This exercise is from Marie Forleo, who's another coach, but I think it's just a very easy, simple. Oh, Thorne's an emotional authority. Yes. So we'll talk about that later. But this is a great exercise to really get in touch with your intuition. Does this make me feel expansive or contracted? And taking your time to feel it out. So I'm so happy I covered that all. If you want to explore this further, I have an expansive opportunity for you. I really hope that that first part was full of value and you found it interesting, even if you never see me again. But I'm spending the last few minutes talking about my new program, my renewal of my old program, because it's like my baby and I'm so proud of it. So I'm reintroducing the breakthrough. This is my program I did last year for the first time, and taking my experience with this coach from last year and all of the depths that I went to and through, I have revamped and made this program into something even better, and I'm really excited for it. So it is a 12-week container that is designed to create lasting change and that's sustainable. I was thinking about, should I make this 12 weeks or 8 weeks? But I think the 12 weeks is really the sweet spot when people start to see change. And so I wanted to stretch it out. And it's for you if you're an overthinker or you struggle with anxiety. It's for you if you're an overachiever who wants to try living life in a different way. And it's for you if you want more from life. Um, Learning to listen to my intuition has changed everything for me. And I see this crazy results in my clients' lives as well. Um, so if you're not sure how to get to an intuitive place, this is a container that's going to help you to feel more joyful, more confident, more alive. And things can be more fun when you're living from a place of intuition and managing your mind. So this is for you if you're ready to level the F up, as Kim would say, who's in the room with us. If you are ready to be that bitch, this container is for you. So it's designed to help you to retrain your brain and to filter out the anxious overthinking thoughts. It's designed to learn you to tune into your intuition and to create a life that you're obsessed with. So it's broken up into 3 modules, broken up by month. So the first month is all about mindset, magic mindset. For those of you who were at my magic mindset class a few months ago, it's going to be really learning to retrain your brain, making your mind your best friend. Month 2 is going to be more of this. It's going to be diving into your intuition, learning to hear yourself and take action from it. And then month 3, we start to take a lot of aligned action and create a new life that we're super excited about. So you can expect from this container to be in a community with like-minded women. That was the best part of this first round, was that like everyone became friends from the container. You're going to feel held and supported and pushed just a little bit. And you're going to take away tools that you can use every day. Like I said, you're your own guru. I'm not your guru. I want you to be your best expert. And this is designed to help you to do that. So it's time to break through to your power, break through to your intuition, and break through to the badass who is under all of the fears, programming, anxiety that lives in you. This is Steph. She did the first round of the breakthrough, and this is just a little testimonial, but she struggled with imposter syndrome for her whole career, and she works at a very prominent company. You've all heard of it. You probably use them every day. And imposter syndrome came with her into the room every time she presented anything. And so from doing the mindset work specifically in the breakthrough, she completely shifted out of her imposter syndrome. And since then, which was last summer, she has been absolutely killing it in our presentations. All of her coworkers are noticing how confident she is. She had a whole identity shift from doing this work. I don't know if Kit is still in the room, but she also was in the breakthrough last year, and she was really interested in the intuitive work specifically, and doing this work helped her to feel more settled into her intuition. And through this process, she got invited to own a brick and mortar Pilates studio after, like, that wasn't even on her radar, but she kind of manifested this opportunity, and she had to filter through what the intuition was and what was fear. And now she is a owner of a business, and it's so cool. So this is what the work can do for you. If you are already a client of mine, you can join this container for free. And if you've been on the fence about if you want to be a one-on-one or not, and this pushes you over the edge, you can join for free, and you can just jump in. This is not the right slide. So the investment of this container, you get the 12 weeks of coaching. It's going to be split between integration calls and teaching, daily coaching on Marco Polo, community of like-minded women, accountability, friendship, and nudges forward. It's going to be 3 months for $1,500. But if you were on this call for the next 48 hours, you get a fast action discount, which makes the investment $9.99, and you can pay in full over 3 months or over 6 months. So if you act fast, it's super, super affordable. The 6-month payment plan is less than $200 a month. And if you pay in full, you can get a year ahead astrology reading and a bonus one-on-one coaching session. So I love to reward fast action people. And so if you have any questions, let me know. The final thing I'll leave you with, and then I'll hang out for questions. I'm introducing an affiliate program for myself. Because word of mouth has been the way my business has grown more than anything. Almost every client I have is from word of mouth. And so I want to honor that. So if you share this with somebody and they sign up, you can get 50% of their sign up fee, like 50. So that would come out to about $750 if they sign up for free or for the full price program. And like, why would I be doing this? Because I want to help more women. I've been called to dream bigger and to stop playing small. And so the more people who have these tools, the more power in the hands of women. That's what I've been called here to do, is to help women to step up into their power. So if you share this with somebody and they sign up, I'm going to give you back 50% of the fee. And that is my pleasure to do. I did it with 5 minutes to spare. So awesome. Thank you so much. Do we have any questions about intuition?
Hey Lauren, I was just telling the other Lauren, my other Lauren, earlier that I've been trying to lean more into my intuition. So I'm getting there. I'm doing a better job. I will say that.
Well, I know that your intuition has been guiding you, and I've been with you for some of those steps. And so, yeah, I'm sure the more you listen to it, the louder it'll get. What is your authority?
Sacral.
Sacral. Yeah. Yeah. Your gut knows.
Hmm.
You just gotta
Yeah.
practice.
I even say some days I was like, nope, that's my intuition. Lauren said, listen to my intuition. So yeah.
Well, I want you to listen to you. But if
I
that
need to, right. I need to do both.
amazing. Any other questions? Thank you so much for coming. So good to see faces, and thank you for letting me share my passion. All right, love you guys. Bye.